Hello, everybody. This is Mike McMeekin, the Executive Director of Engineering Change Lab USA. And we're here at the 2023 Engineering Ideas Institute at the wonderful Colorado Chautauqua in Boulder, Colorado. And I'm here today with Andy Bochman of the Idaho National Lab, who was one of our provocateurs in the first day of our event. What we are hoping to achieve in the event is to develop some future scenarios that are plausible, and then talk about the implications for the engineering community. Andy was here today to talk about some of the risks that we face in the future and help us to think more deeply. Andy, can you summarize what you told us today about the most significant risks that you think we face in the future and that the engineering community should be concerned about?
I'm happy to, Mike, and
Thanks.
appreciate the invite here. This has been wonderful. Yeah, as a provocateur, which I probably have done that in the past in different conferences and different venues, but never with that official title, it really probably brought out the worst in me. I hear challenge these engineers by saying that at least some of them weren't living fully in reality, that for whatever reason, they were looking at climate change as something that is a problem, but not necessarily something that was really close to them, that was informing their work on a daily basis, that was helping them think about designing differently, building differently. And maybe some of them felt offended by that because maybe they felt, I am.
Right.
But we tried to broaden it a little bit and say, well, whether that's you or your colleagues or our colleagues in the wider world, we know there's people out there that haven't fully grokked the full implications of what this accelerating climate change is bringing. We also touched briefly on the fact that everything's become a computer and the world is digitizing. We use the term modernizing to sort of smooth that over a little bit.
Yeah.
But the fact that we're making ourselves so dependent on digital technologies, basically computers with software and memory and processing that are connected everywhere.
Right.
It works when things work great and it's a blue sky like it is here at Chautauqua and Boulder. Everybody's happy. However, when skies turn gray or black and those things become unreliable for a short term or a longer term, then that's a crisis. And we don't want to be in that position. We want to prepare ourselves to not be in that position by making good design decisions.
Thanks, Andy. Just one more question. One of the tools that we use to understand the impacts of climate change in the future are emissions scenarios, right? Where are we going to go with greenhouse gas emissions? Will we make progress? Will we reduce the emissions, or will we continue accelerating with emissions? And that's a very important topic, I think, for not only the engineering community to understand, but for people to understand. How would you characterize where we stand now in terms of where we're headed with emissions?
Okay, sure. One way of measuring where we are now is saying, after all these meetings with the Council of Parties at the different global cities where we make commitments, world leaders make commitments to net zero targets, where we energize through our own legislation in the United States with the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Act, with all these things in motion, all this money being spent and pledges being made, have emissions been going down globally? The answer is no. They haven't been going down. And once that CO2 and that methane and a couple other gases go up there, especially CO2, they're up there to stay for our lifetimes anyway, probably our children's too. We don't have a good means of taking them out yet. Carbon capture, pulling CO2 and emissions out of the atmosphere, that's just not a mature or nearly a mature technology yet. So we have to live with what we've put up. Right now, I think the consensus is that we're about 1.2 degrees Celsius above the industrial baseline. You can see the effects of that all around the world. This summer's been horrific in terms of extreme heat and flooding and fire, right? It's going to keep going up. We're trying to make it through emissions reduction. We call that mitigation. we're trying to keep it in some reasonable bound, but we don't know how to define that. So we're making progress, I think.
Right.
Renewables, wind, solar, storage are going to be deployed more broadly. They are being deployed more broadly. New nuclear, like from the Idaho National Lab and the small modular and microreactors, that may come to play a significant role with the clean baseload power. But man, it's a work in progress.
Right. All right. Well, that's an important fact that we all should be able to agree on, that we have made progress with technologies, but we're not making the progress we need to make with emissions. So thanks, Andy. Appreciate your contributions today. We look forward to the next 2 days of the Engineering Ideas Institute. Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks, Mike.